wearing these things.
All right, it looks like we're live, guys. I apologize for the issue today. We had some sound problems. We did test this out last night, I promise. So, but you know, we got it all worked out. Everything's good now. So, thank you so much for hanging in there and holding tight. Today, you know what? We're gonna pause for just a second, and we're just gonna start right into it because we don't have we're late. So, all right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Cake Food Master series. I'm Amelia Carbine, your host, and thank you guys all for coming and joining us. Today we have a really amazing guest. She's just an amazing person, an amazing artist, and an amazing friend. So, welcome, Peggy Tucker.
Thank you, love. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. How are you?
Excellent. I'm actually really great. Thank you, and I hope our viewers are as well. How are you loving the farm?
You know what? The farm has been so much fun. It really has. You know, for those of you that don't know the situation, we have moved from Las Vegas to Utah, little small itty-bitty town Utah, and we're kind of house sitting and farm sitting for my parents who are away in Russia right now for the next 2 years. And so it's been fun.
Kind of doing the Green Acres thing, folks.
We've got lots of sheep. We've got some goats. There are cattle up on the ranch, but we don't take care of those. My parents have someone else taking care of the cattle. So yeah, I've got a little garden planted. I was kind of late to get a decent sized garden planted, but wow, it's been really fun. The kids are loving it, and life is good.
Well, I love seeing.
And another thing is we're working on a cake foo room right now. So we're really pretty busy. So we're trying to get that room all set up so that we can start recording videos again and get things going for all of that stuff we have coming up.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So hopefully it'll come fast.
Yep. We're going to work with this lovely headset today because for some reason we ran a complete test last night and everything worked perfectly fine until we logged on a little bit ago and I had no volume on my side. And so for whatever reason, the microphone works, and so that's what we're going to roll with.
That's right. You know, sometimes you just got to deal with what you can deal with, and you look amazing, Peggy. So you look beautiful.
We're going to play sportscaster here, folks, you know, announcer or... It's all good. Well, today Amelia has asked me to show you a little bit about Oriental string work, which I love to do. I'm probably not the greatest at it. I'm going to be honest with you about it, but I love to do it. It's so easy, and I have found over the time that people just stay away from it because they're like, you can't do that. I can't do that. I can't turn a cake upside down.
It looks so intimidating, but it's so much easier than you think.
It really, really is. So in order for me to be able to show you what we're going to be doing, I'm going to have to be moving my computer around a little bit because I can't pipe here and let you see what's actually going on. So if I do this, I get to see it, but you don't. And that's not the point of all of this. So I'm going to move the computer so that the camera is actually focused on my work area. So don't think that I'm ignoring you. I'm not. I am here. No one else's hands are coming in and playing with the cakes and stuff. But Amelia will help you answer questions and talk with you about that. So Amelia, I'm going to see if I can turn this. And if I put this down, does that get my work surface well enough?
We need it down just a little bit lower.
A little bit lower. Hold on. I have it up on a case. Let me take the case off.
Okay.
Let me set it down. Let me get rid of this. Don't you love those sound effects, folks? How's that?
That's much better. We're only working on the top part of it, right? Because that's the way.
Yeah, that's the part that we're going to be playing with. So I've covered my cake in a fondant. And
if you scoot your cake over to your right just a little bit, that would probably work out a little bit better. That's perfect.
That's perfect. Okay.
That's perfect right there. All right.
Excellent. And so I prepped it by simply covering it in fondant, and this is satin ice chocolate, and it smells phenomenal, I have to tell you. And so in order to do Oriental lace, we're going to be flipping our cake back and forth, and that's the trick to it. So we're going to prep the top a little bit because we just don't want to flip this over. And so I have a cake round, right? Just a normal little cake round, and I'm going to put it down on top of my cake. If this were a real cake, you would want to take, this is a 10-inch cake, you would want to take a 10-inch cake board and then just trim it in a 1/4 of an inch all the way around. And by doing that, that's going to give your cake, a real cake, the support it's going to need when we flip it. All right, so that goes down. Then I have a cake dummy. Dummy, dummy, dummy. It's going on top of that, and I would recommend using a 6-inch or an 8-inch on a 10-inch cake. All right, so in order to hold those, we have our little favorite things, quilting pins. Everybody knows Peggy loves quilting pins. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take those, and I'm
What
going
other
to
things do
go.
you use your quilting pins for?
What other things do I use my quilting pins
Mm-hmm.
for? Oh, you're going to love this. All right, so
Just
when
get
I
some nice
put a
tips
dummy
going on
onto
here.
a board, I take it and I secure it by putting pins into the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. And by doing
Oh,
that,
four.
my cake will not go anywhere. And so it's a really easy way to secure it and not have to worry about it. So
Nice.
pins.
And
And
that's
then
just
I
with the
use pins.
styrofoam cake?
That's a styrofoam cake.
Yes.
Yeah. And so
Okay.
then I use my pins also, and I'll raise this up a little bit, and I put them through the board, one on each side, and then when I need to transport a cake, I simply put that into the car on the floorboard or into the trunk, and then I move that pins, the 2 of them, all the way down into the carpeting, and those 2 little pins are never going to let that cake go anywhere. So if you ever look
Yes.
inside my truck, up in the ceiling, there's all kinds, by the door jambs, there's all kinds of little pins. My granddaughters are always saying, Nana, what are you doing with all of these pins? Well, I need them sometimes.
I love that. Well, and it's so
Yeah,
smart because you never know when you're going to have to slam on your brakes in the middle of
you
traffic.
don't. Exactly. And so it just holds things in place. And I just think, it's like the cheapest solution to so many things. All right, so I've got my cake board. I'm going to put my cake dummy on top, and then I'm going to use the pins, and I'm going to come in at an angle through both of those into that cake. And if this were a real cake, you could still do that and not have to worry about it because these are stainless steel.
Mm-hmm. Just make sure they're sanitized, right?
Exactly. All right, so I'm just going to do that 4 times around the cake. All right, and
Oh,
so
and
now
another thing is
that,
make sure you, sorry to interrupt you, make sure that you count the number of pins that you're putting into your cake because the last thing you want is leaving a pin in when you deliver it. That would be not great.
not great. Very good point. Very good point. All right, so that now is going to allow me to flip my cake. And it's going to be very sturdy and supported on there so that we can begin the Oriental lace work. All right, so that's how we prep a cake, and that cake board, remember, is you would use a 10-inch, but just trim it back a 1/4 of an inch. And the reason for that is when we get done with all of this, we're going to have to pull this board. So I'm just going to undo this really fast. And your lace is going to be, your Oriental work is going to be standing up here. So in order to get that board out, if it was a 10-inch, it would be right at that edge. You might knock your work. So being in a little further helps you stay away from it, and you're never going to reach in. You're going to take your handy pins and you're going to go poke, poke, and you're going to raise that board up. All right?
Perfect.
So it's got multi-purposes for those little pins. There you go. And so we'll put that back into there.
Very nice. So, how would you do this on a real cake? Can you just cover your cake and then start going at it, or what do you need to do with it?
If you're covering, you want to take your cake and make sure that you've got a nice, it's got a good undercoating on it, and you've got your fondant on it nice. And I would let that fondant set for a day on your
Okay.
cake before I would start flipping it back and forth. You
Okay.
I haven't found that you're able to do this with the buttercream cake. Can you imagine why? It
Why
just
is
kind
that?
of moves around a little bit too much. So on to lovely fondant, we can easily do that. All right. So then the royal icing that I have made up is inside this little container. And I've basically used the Wilton's recipe. It's the easiest for everybody to get hold of, okay? And so it's in every little can of meringue you buy is the recipe for the, the royal icing. All I do is enhance it. Make sure you sift your powdered sugar. All I do is enhance it by adding 2 tablespoons of glucose to it. I love the glucose. It makes it silkier and it just flows beautifully out of the piping tubes then. Right?
Well, you know, that
So
is the easiest recipe for a piped royal that I've seen ever.
yeah, for me it is. You can do the egg white, but you know, most of the time I start to make it and I realize, oh, I don't have a lemon and I don't have lemon juice in the house. Do I have cream of tartar in the house? But you know, as long as I've got a can of meringue, I'm good to go. So it's for me the easiest, and so I kind of like it. So I mix it
I
up.
think it works pretty great.
Yeah. You know, anybody out there that's got whatever works for them is fantastic by me. So you know, just use what you have, or if you've never done royal icing, try that recipe, the Wilton recipe. It's really quite simple. And so then I package mine instead of into bowls and stuff. When it's out of the mixer, I package mine into these little packages. All right. And this is Saran wrap. And so I take a piece of the Saran wrap and I lay it out. And I take a spoonful of my royal icing and I place it down inside. And then I fold one side over, and I'm going to see if I can do this. There we go. And then I begin to roll, and then I turn it. And by
Like a
doing
Tootsie
that,
Roll.
like a Tootsie Roll, all right? And you're keeping all of the air out of that now, and it's not going to get hard or anything on you. And that way, when I have my bag, I simply have my bag with the tip in it, and then I'm going to cut the end off. I'm going to drop it down inside of there, and you can actually just leave it with the paper on it, but for today I'm just going to squeeze a little bit out because I don't want to have too much in it. And then I just take and I put them back inside my containers. And you can do your colors, everything that way, and it's just for me, I like it because I'm assured that there is no oil getting to my royal icing. And then I'm just going to fold it down. And I am using a parchment bag today. Okay.
Is there a certain reason for the parchment bag?
It's just the one that I grabbed. If they have disposables, they're good for that. I would not use a regular piping bag that that you've put buttercream and things from, because no matter how well you clean them, there's always a small trace of an oil behind, and you really don't want that into your royal icing. So a parchment bag, and it can be folded small enough so that you know it's easy in your hand, and you don't want to ever overfill as well. So that's it for the royal icing. And so we have our tip. Now, doing string work, you can do it in a lot of different sizes. The ones that you normally see, and Amelia is quite familiar with, is the super fine delicate, which is normally a double or a triple aught, which is zeros.
Yeah, 00 or 000.
Yeah, you can literally go blind with the magnifying glass, but it does the most delicate, beautiful work you will ever see. So today I have actually put in a 1 so that it would be large enough to be able to be seen on camera, because I wasn't quite sure of what a double aught would show up as. All right, so in progress, we're going to go back to this one in a minute. I have one here for you. And I've got a couple of different designs that I started on it for you.
Look
Okay?
how pretty that is.
So our goal is to get all of our lace work up and around that. So I'm going to start showing you how I got to that process, and then I'm going to switch back over to finish that one off. It was kind of, that swap and go type of a thing. So we'll work
Mm-hmm.
on that. All right. So how do we know our measurements? We don't want them, scattered everywhere. I take register paper, just register
Perfect.
paper. If you happen to have a seamstress tape measure, you can do the same thing. Just wrap it around, or one of those flexible rulers, and then I bring it across. Then I'm going to take my scissors, give it a cut. All right, so I know that that fits perfectly around my cake. All right, there you go. See, perfectly around the cake. All right.
There you go.
Then all you're going to do is begin to fold your paper. Do you want it in your seams to be an inch away, 3/4 of an inch away, an inch and a half? Then that's how you would fold your paper. And so I'm aiming to get mine about an inch and a half.
Okay.
So
Is
you just
there
fold.
a kind of a rule of thumb with it, or like, is there a point where it's too far apart
Yes. Yeah.
or
If
too
you get
close
them too
together?
far apart, it's just going to, because the cakes are round, if they're too far apart, it's just going to automatically hit inside the seam area here.
Mm-hmm.
So
It'll
if
touch the cake.
you're 2 inches and, Oriental stands away from the cake, so nothing should ever be touching the cake. Yeah. When you've done
Okay.
yours, what was your preferred measurement? How far did you like to actually do yours?
I think about an inch and a half is good.
Is
I
it's
think
good. Yeah.
that's, I mean, that's probably the furthest away that I would do. And it depends
Yeah.
on how delicate you want it to look, you know.
Correct. Yeah, the closer more delicate it is, the more layers you add to it, really makes it pop. So I've folded mine now, and it's about an inch and a half. And so you would just take that and wrap your cake. All right. And then take a piece of tape. I have one here from earlier. See my tape from earlier?
Perfect.
Now, if you were using one of the seamstress tape measures, you just simply put it on there and then find your marks, because it's flexible and can move around, which is
Mhm.
really easy to do. All right, so then I put it towards the top, and then I come in with pins, and I just mark, right? You can actually see, I don't know if you can see or not. How's the lighting, by the way? Do we need more lighting or less lighting? Because I have a
You know,
light behind the...
the lighting is great. You
Perfect.
can't really see the lines of the folds very well. I think it's kind of just whited out just a little bit, but I think that's just natural for the screen.
Okay. All right.
Kind of see
So
the folds, but
you
we get
will
the
you will
point.
you get the point, right? You can see the lines, trust me, you can see the lines, and I can see the lines, and I don't even have my glasses on. All right, so then what I'm going to do is just take my trusty little pins and just mark exactly where those lines are at. And you're going to do this all the way around. Take your pins all the way around. Okay? Amelia, how do you mark yours? Because every one of
Um,
us does it a little different.
you know what? This is almost exactly the way that I do it too. I learned from Barb Evans.
Barb
So
Evans, is she not phenomenal?
she
I
really
love
is.
her piping work.
Mhm.
Every bit of her piping work she does is fantastic.
Yes, she is.
All right, so you get the point, because if I continue to do this, it's like paint drying, right? All right, so we're going to take this out, put that over there, and then I'm going to come in with my piping bag, and where I have a pin, I'm actually going to start my dots. And you're going to place a small dot right where those are at.
Goodness. The
And
one thing that I do differently than you, but I like the way that you're doing this, is that I just mark them and then move the pin out. And then I go through and have to figure out where all the little pin pricks are. But
exactly.
if you leave the pin there, then you have an easier time finding them.
Yeah, and
So, I like
with the
that.
chocolate, that little hole, I would never be able to find it.
Yeah, well, especially with some fondants, some brands of fondant, they tend to leave those little crackles and things in your fondant,
Right.
and you don't want to mistakenly put a dot where it's not supposed to be.
No dots.
So,
Anyways, and so you do this, and I think I got that more towards a 2 than a 1.5. So we'll have to see how this plays out. I should have measured that, but that's okay. All right. So there you have it, little dots. And you don't want, and when you're using the smaller tip, your double aught, you actually have much smaller, and that works extremely, extremely well. Like I said, I'm using a larger so that it'll actually show up better on the camera there. All right. So I'm going to take, Jamelia, when you do yours, do you flip first or do the bottom first?
I it's been a while since I've done the Oriental, but I believe that I have always done bottom first,
Bottom
and then.
first?
But yeah, but you know what? I think that I would like the
I
flipping it
Yeah,
first.
I find it interesting because all of us do it a different way. And
Mhm.
to me, there's no right or wrong. It's what you're comfortable with. And so I've flipped my cake now, sitting down there, and then I'm just going to start. And the other thing I wanted to kind of to show you was to make sure, how do you know your um, pipe or your royal icing is perfect before you begin on your cake? And that is on your hand. And so if you just simply touch, pull out, squeeze, let it hang, and then come back and touch there. And if that can hang, which it did not, pull out and touch. And if that can hang there for a few seconds, it's going to hang onto your cake. All right,
Mhm.
easy as that.
Yeah.
Now, by also
And
showing you that, go ahead.
sorry.
Nope.
I was going to say I found that using the smaller tips is actually easier because it's not
Yes.
quite as heavy.
Yes, it is.
So,
And it doesn't weight it down, and it dries faster as well.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah. And so when doing string work for those that are new to this, you never want to drag. You don't want to attach and then squeeze and drag. You want to actually attach, squeeze, pull out, keep your pressure on the bag nice and steady, stop, walk it over and touch it down. All right, so it's a squeeze, hold your pressure steady on the bag, walk it out, walk it over, and touch it down. And the reason we don't do this is because by pulling it, the end over here gets super thin when you pull, and that's where it breaks. All right,
Mhm.
there we go. All right, so bye. Going back over here. Is that good, Amelia?
That's perfect.
Okay, so then we're going to start. And then we're going to attach, walk it out, hold your pressure nice and steady, stop squeezing, walk it over, and touch it down.
Look how beautiful.
Touch it, walk it out, hold your pressure, stop squeezing, walk it over. Why are you going to do that to me?
It's that heavier tip.
It is. It is a heavier tip. Hang on, I'm going to switch out to a bag I was using earlier today.
I think we'll be able to see a smaller one just fine. That one does look
Okay.
heavy on
Yeah.
camera.
Now I just got to get it unclogged because there we go. And see, this one is the thinner one. All right.
There you
So we're
go.
going to use that one. Let me just touch that down a little bit and get this off of my hands.
So
And the
someone
thing
was
is, you
asking,
always, pardon
sorry.
me?
Oh, I said someone was asking, do you have to flip it? Do you have to flip the cake?
Yes, in order to do Oriental, you do. Because Oriental stands above the cake and away from the cake. Tell them, don't be afraid, flip that cake.
That's right. That's right. Well, you can do drop string work just fine without flipping it, but
Oh,
if it's
yes.
Oriental, you have to flip it.
Yes.
So be brave. It'll
Be
work.
brave. And then touch it down. And the thing you want to watch for too is the loops on how, oh, do not do this.
If you touch it, it's gonna fall.
Then, and that's how all you have to do is to clean it off is just
Mm-hmm.
remove it a little bit. All right, so let's touch down, pull out, pull over, and touch down again. Get off of there.
I like how nice and big you do your loops. Will give quite the effect. And just so I think if you're starting out, you'd probably want to do smaller little
Smaller,
so that
yes,
you don't run that risk of them breaking as much.
breaking. Yeah, and the reason you don't want to stop the pressure on your bag midway is because wherever you stop, it's going to cause a little break in it to start it back up. It's like a tiny little bubble, and it'll always wind up breaking on you.
Mm-hmm.
So start, pull out, nice even squeeze, walk it over, touch it down. And then every now and then go back to make sure that you're kind of staying, where you're supposed to be. And I think I better put my glasses on, girl. And
You
here's
know
what you
what?
do. If you find that one of them isn't the right size, then you can take a pin or you can take one of these great little tools and you just come in and pick it up, walk it over, and take it right off. All right? Got great little loops by doing that too. But then you can go right back, finish that little area there, because we don't want those little spots too awful big. And then you just come in and walk it out again to get the right size. All right. If you've got one that's a little bit long, take that same tool. First, I'm going to clean that little bit there. And then you can grab hold of it right underneath here, right underneath there, and you can grab hold of it and raise it up. See how easy that is to do? Just
You
raise
know what?
it up.
I've never done that.
You've never done
That's
that?
so fun.
You've
I've
taken the
never done
entire
that.
thing off and redid it.
Yes. No, I just, I go and if it's too long, I take it off and do it again. So I've never even thought to raise it like that.
Yeah. All you have to do is just something small, like my favorite thing, a pin, and just go in, grab hold of it. See, you can walk it right off of there and just ease it up a little bit.
And set
And
it
then
right
just touch it
back
right back
down.
down.
I
So you
love
don't have
that.
to remove everything. Oh, yay,
You
good.
taught me something cool today.
Yay. My job is done. I'm done. Okay, and back over. I didn't realize I had put so many dots onto here. Okay, and back over. And there again, I'm going to move that one because it's super easy to do, folks. And keep in mind, this is only royal icing, and if it breaks, we fix it. All right? So that's going to take a couple of minutes to fully dry. Now, you're probably wondering, how do I know when to flip it? Well, if you look at these here, all you have to do is just lightly, ever so slightly, just blow on them a little bit. I'm not talking hurricane, folks. It's just like, and see the movement? If you can do that and there's no movement, then you know you're ready to flip. So generally when I'm doing my layers, I do a whole layer. I go away, I throw a load of laundry in, I do whatever I'm going to do for about 20 minutes. I come on back, I flip, I do a layer, I walk away. Does it take 20 minutes? Probably not, but as you're building outwards, the heavier these dots get, the longer they need to dry, all right, before we can flip our cake. And so then we're going to get ready to do that in just a few minutes. Are there any questions? I'm feeling lonely
Um,
over here, folks. Are they out there?
no, we've got a
Either I'm,
couple of questions.
okay,
Someone's
I was going
asking
to say
about
either we're
straining the
handling
royal
it.
icing. Do you need to strain the royal icing?
I'm sorry, say again?
Do you need to strain the royal icing?
No, I do not strain my royal icing. I know a lot of folks do. They run it through a pantyhose, the nylons, and
Hmm.
then they squeeze it out that way so they ensure that they have no clogs or anything going into it. I find that if you sift your powdered sugar and then you add the glucose to it, I don't ever have a problem with my tips clogging. But, if that's the way you want to do it, go for it.
Okay. Someone's saying, I can't decorate my cakes upside down because they are very fresh, filled with mousses or fresh fruits, and so. Do you have
Yes.
a fix for them?
Actually, anything that's got fresh fruits and mousses that are in the middle of it that are going to cause it to move, you need to really get that cake chilled extremely well. Have it covered in the royal or the fondant, and then you can actually go for it from there. But you're going to make sure that you have straws and stuff down inside of it, like the polydol straws, anything to give it that support so that movement back and forth. But you've got a good sturdy base on the bottom of your cake, and you've got a cake board on the top. So that's sandwiching that together. So instead of just going, whoomp, you're just going to take it and just nice and easy turn that cake over. So you really shouldn't have a problem as long as you've chilled it and got it nice and the fondant is on it all the way around.
Perfect. And one more question
Hmm.
you've answered this partially, but someone's asking, is there a trick to making sure that you get each loop the same exact length? Um, she says mine are always slightly longer or shorter than the one beside it.
Yeah, mine too. It's called redo. Actually, they're as you're going along. If you do a count, if you figure out your count of your squeeze, so if you're going and your first one that you start, as soon as you attach and start to pull out, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stop squeezing and walk it over. Then they should always be the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Walk it over. Oops, I'm going to lose that. Ooh.
Your hand's not steady enough.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
your finger.
but
You're
my
holding.
black pants are looking really good. Anyway,
Getting some zebra stripes
yeah,
there?
it's okay. Yeah, we're having a little bit of a white stripes going on effect down here, and that's all good. But to me, it's with any piping, you do a count. As you're going, if you're doing shells, it's 1, 2, 3, pull, 1, 2, 3, pull. Um, so if you get that rhythm down, you should always be even going around. And if by off chance you have one that's longer, you can fix it. If it's shorter, you take it off because you can't kind of stretch it.
Okay. Do you
You
want more
might want to,
questions
but you
now, or
can't.
just wait till later?
Yeah, let's just give me the questions. I can do that.
All right. Another question is, can you do this with a double barrel cake, or would that be too high to flip?
I have never done this on a double barrel cake. As long as the fondant was solid, I don't think you should have a problem, but don't be flipping it too awful fast is what I would suggest. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have
I,
you
I
ever
would
done a
think
double
that
barrel with it?
I never have. I would
Yeah.
imagine that it would work. You've got to be
Yeah.
pretty strong, and you got to
Yeah.
trust that cake. You need it really chilled.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Good question though. Geez, I never even thought to do a double barrel cake with it.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool, though.
I think so too.
Cool.
Yeah.
If
All right. So
someone
meanwhile,
says,
while we're chit-chatting here, go
um,
ahead. Go ahead.
another one is, how much mixing do you do to your royal icing? I was told not to whip it, only use the
Mm,
beater blade on a low to medium speed for 5 minutes.
That's absolutely correct. Yep.
Okay.
Never whip your frosting. And what I do when I bring mine out of the bowl, or I have it in the bowl, the way that it was mixed, I take a spatula and I go back the opposite way, and then I just ease my spatula back and forth through it, and that's breaking up any air bubbles that might have been in there.
Hmm.
And when I pack it inside those little packages like I showed you, you're moving that and patting it down so you're also getting rid of any of the air bubbles in there. And that's usually what causes a lot of problems in breaks is getting that air into it. Yeah.
That's right. Air bubbles are the enemy here.
They
You do
are
need
the
to
enemy.
mix it long enough, though. You
Yes.
want to make sure that it's not just, a puddle.
No, you can't have a puddle. And the thing too is the water that you add to it. You never want to add cold water to it because it kind of has more of a concrete effect when it first hits it, or hot. Hot turns it to liquid super fast. So I like to have a lukewarm water when I'm making my recipe, and I add very little at a time so I can watch it. So that when I'm doing piping, I know that it has to be a thinner consistency um, for the fine little tips, versus royal icing that I'm going to put through, say, a number 5. So yeah, so your consistency is there as well.
Okay, great.
Okay, all right. I'm adding some more dots to this just because I wanted to be able to show you something else that, because Oriental, a lot of folks see it either on the top or the bottom of the cake, but it can be done anywhere on the cake. So you can actually do it in the middle of the cake. And so I've added some dots. See my dots? Wait, no, you
No,
can't
we
see my
see the
dots.
dots.
Now you can see the dots.
Now we see the dots.
Dots. There we go. All right. So I'm going to do the same things to these dots as I did down here, and I'm just going to loop them. And I normally get students in class that say, why can't I just go loop, 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 loop? Well, it's because you need to stop each one of them and get it attached very well. And so I'm going to start here, pull out, and then just walk it over. Start here, pull out, walk it over. A lot of folks will ask, well, why don't you use the turntable that tilts? I think that's cheating. It's brilliant, but I think that's cheating. I mean, if you get your dots the right height, you'll always have that space underneath it. So do you use your turntable or tilting table?
No, I don't. Not for this, no.
No. Yeah.
I would think that a tilting turntable would make your loops hang the wrong way.
They do. They kind of, they slant a little bit and stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I have a couple of these that are just a little bit too long, and it's actually touching my cake, so I'm going to clean it off. And see, it's just that easy, folks, to get it off. And then I have a little paintbrush over here as well.
What do you use the paintbrush for? We can't see that little section.
Oh, I'm sorry. I took, oh, I just broke a loop. I took a loop off and it touched my cake. So I went in and I just cleaned it up with my paintbrush.
Okay, just that extra royal icing. Okay.
Yeah, it removes the extra royal icing. And see, when I did that, I lost it.
You bumped it.
I bumped it. And what happens when you bump it? We lose it. So I'm just going to pipe that one really fast so that it can begin to dry and we can move on. It's kind of like watching paint dry after a while. Somebody do this, so we could talk about anything that you might like to. Questions. I won't tell you any gossip or new products. I can't do that.
Well, the things that haven't been released yet. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, we can't talk about any of that.
I hate that when you know something's coming and you're like, I want to tell everybody. This is so cool.
I know. But I can't. It's yeah, but all good stuff is coming on down, and I know we're all getting excited for ISIS, which is coming up. All right, so I'm going to move this cake out of the way, and I'm going to bring this one in. Okay, so I've been working with it being upside down, and I have a couple of different designs going on here. So first off, I have my first one that I piped downwards. And I did that all the way around, and then I came back and I piped upwards. And then I flipped and I piped my second one going over. And if I turn it towards the camera that way, can you actually see the spaces that are between here?
Yes, you can. You can see that there's a gap between those two.
There's a gap, and that's what you want. All right, so Oriental, there's so many different designs out there, or you can create your own designs. I know Amelia has created her own designs and they've looked phenomenal. So that's what I was working on one side. On this side, I took and I had my loops going down, and then when I flipped, I did my loops going in between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I flipped, I came back. And so now when I flip, I'm going to finish that off by coming from here to here. And that'll finish that. So I wanted to get a couple of them in progress for you so you can see a few of the different designs. So this one is now ready to get flipped back up and over. Just like that. Want to see that again? Just like that. All right. And it really is sturdy. I mean, I can take and I can shake this and it's not going to go anywhere.
Everybody's freaking out right now.
No, Peggy, don't do that. Which makes it very, you can transport it. It's not a problem, really. You want to see that again? Wait, we can go. We can shake it. The one thing you can't do is touch it. You can
Uh-huh.
transport it, you can shake it, you can bump it, but if you bump into it, that string work is gone. But
Yep.
it's really, really interesting to do. So where did I leave off? I'm going to turn this way. Okay, our double's over here. Get my little string. All right, here. All right. And so in between each one of these, then you've added another little dot. Remember the first little dots we put? And those
Mhm.
little dots are what's giving us that space between our um, strings. Excuse me, every now and then the brain just goes completely dead. And remember, always keep your tip clean. So you'll see me always doing this with my hand. I'm constantly keeping that tip clean. So I'm going to touch down, pull out, do my count, come over, walk it down. Touch down, pull out, walk it over, set it down. Okay, I'll turn that towards you. Right, and when they're moving like that, they're kind of swinging, so you want to move very slowly, otherwise it will attach itself. And you here again, you want to make sure that you're on. If your object is to have them even with what is there, you can see this one is not. This one is longer. But watch what happens if I do this. Levels it out. All right, so that it wasn't um, longer than that first one. Here too, this one is a little longer, so I'm just going to bring it up and over. Okay.
Oh, boy, you have saved me so much grief.
I'm not, yeah, it's like, why? I know. And that is what is great about sharing what we know. If we kept all
Exactly.
of this up to ourselves, it would be really bad because we help everybody out.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Okay. See them swinging? Yeah, they're,
Hmm. Yeah, you can see them kind of jiggling a little bit.
yep. You could put this on a turntable. I have one too. I actually have lots of turntables. And it would glide it would glide a little bit better.
Well, I'm sure you were concerned about height and all that. And
Yeah, I was trying to figure out the best way to get this so that I could actually see what I was doing and the viewers could see what they were doing. All right, and this one here got broke. So I'm going to
hmm
come in there and I'm going to come into the back section of it and I'm going to pipe that one in
And now, why would you do in the back?
because that one, my first one is still there,
Hmm.
and that was the one that was my first down. So I had my cake over and I did all of my top ones. And then I flipped
Hmm.
it and I did all of my lower ones, flipped it back, did my second top ones, and in the process of setting my computer up, I bumped it and knocked that bottom first one out.
Yeah.
So it now needs to go back inside so that it matches the others. And it's sticking out on this side just a little, so I'm going to take my pin and I'm just going to walk it back there so that it's where it belongs in the setup. There we go. So
And that way,
that
when
when
you
I
do
come
your
across,
second drop string, it's going to actually have that gap like all of the rest of
yes,
them.
yes. If I left it right up front here, when I did my next drop, it would be right against it. All right.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
that's those. So folks, for all of you who have been intimidated to do this, it doesn't get any easier. It really is just this easy to do it. And I posted a photo on Facebook right after of a cake that was, to me, absolutely phenomenal. And the
Mhm.
woman sat down in class, and we were asked, and I was asking the basic question, how many of you have done any type of piping? And she didn't raise her hand. And I said, regular piping. She says, no, I'm new to this. Okay,
Oh,
you're
wow.
sitting down in an Oriental class and you're new to this. And I thought, I love her, absolutely love her because she had no fear. And she watched me and she went back to her chair and she just started to do her own design, and she blew me away, and I had to go hunt that photo for you to put it up on Facebook because we were going to be doing this. So just to let people know that don't be afraid. If you doesn't work out, scrape it down, do it again. But you
Mhm.
know, the first time you sit down to something, it's going to be a little intimidating if you allow it to be. Just
Mhm.
think of it this way. Just have a really good time with it. And so I loved her, and I just wanted to share that story because she was phenomenal. And so I'm going to go back to my cake now. Is that good, Mamelia?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so now I'm going to go across, and I'm going to start the ones that are here to there. So I'm going to come here and come over. You know, I'm going to actually find my glasses too because sometimes it just makes it a little easier for me to be able to actually, wow. Okay. Um,
Well, you know what I have found, when I think the first time I ever did Oriental string work, or and really delicate piping, I was 25. And so my eyes were fine, but you really
yeah,
do need something, especially if you're going to be doing this for a long amount of time,
long
and you're
time.
just
Yes.
staring close range at this, work, and it all looks the same, and it's all,
Yeah,
yeah, there's
needs to
such a
be
need for at least just some magnifying glasses.
magnifying glasses. Yeah, I have my little readers on. All right. And so we're just going to touch that down. And I'm going to slowly move that. All right, so this is one of my favorite designs, and I love to do it really fine, and I love to do it where it's large on the outside, and then I start to build it smaller as it comes forward. I just think it's such a delicate. All right, moving, and I chose to do the chocolate so that my white would show up really well.
And it
Not
does.
not not remembering that, yeah, I could have done white and then dyed my frosting.
You're real. Yeah.
My royal. Yeah, that could have made sense too, but you know, it is what it is. Okay,
And
that
that's
one's too
fine.
long.
You know what?
Yeah.
There is somebody asking
Okay.
something along the lines of that subject. They asked, let's see, do you prefer powdered liquid or gel coloring, or does it make a difference to the consistency?
Um, I don't think that it makes the difference to the consistency, and I pretty much always go towards a liquid, a gel is what because it's easiest for me to grab hold of, and I like that I don't have to worry about little flecks being left behind in it. So that's my preference. Some of the heavier colors to me, um, I don't know if you've ever found this. If you're adding it to something like, if I'm using my powders for my buttercream, I take a little bit of buttercream and I mix that into that first, and then I add that to my whole batch, and it keeps it from having those little tiny different color flecks in that. And blues and purples are really good for that. And you're
Oh,
nodding your head. Yeah, you've been there,
yeah,
girl.
they are. Yep.
But colors have come a really long way, so it's great. But I normally just go right towards my gel colors for dyeing all of my royal icing or buttercreams and
Mhm.
things. I
Yeah.
love using, of course, my dusting powders. Always love using those. All right, I'm just going to finish this last one off here. Oops, not that way. And that's what happens if you don't clean your tip. It curls. Oh, and the other thing too is you want to buy a really good tip. All right.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
yeah,
definitely.
it makes a huge difference. And PME has a really great tips, and you're gonna say they're so expensive. You know, you pay $5 for a tip. Let me tell you, that tip is going to last you forever, and it is honed out of a solid piece, so there's no seam inside that will cause your frosting in these smaller tips to do this little squiggly squiggly, which I will guarantee you, drive you crazy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
stop squiggling.
yeah, if you start piping and you start squeezing your bag and from the tip it starts coming out in little swirls, you know there's something wrong with that tip. So it either needs to be cleaned out or you need a better tip.
Yes.
That's, just a good rule of thumb. If it starts to swirl a little bit, that means there's something catching on one little part of that tip, and you really need to
Yeah.
redo things.
Yeah. And
So,
then the other thing is the care of your tips. I see so many people take a pin and they go in when it clogs or there's, they go in with the pin and they go jab, 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 jab.
oh,
Well,
uh-huh.
I know, yeah. But we're telling people not to do this because there are reasons for this. Yes, we get frustrated, it's clogged, we're going to get it out the fastest way we can, and that is with the pin going jab, jab. Um, the problem with that is that that pin is extremely sharp and you are actually putting little tiny, tiny grooves inside that metal, which is going to cause you more problems down the line. So if you get a clogged, it's either, just take the time to redo the bag or use a bag that you can put a coupler onto so you can switch out your tip. I actually like to have lots of my tips available so that I don't have to stop to constantly keep. I just move the switch out the tip. But the proper way to clean them is to just put them into water, let them soak, and then I take a small little paintbrush into mine because the paintbrush is nice and delicate and to clean them that way. If you're in a hurry, take a toothpick and just place it in and roll it. Don't do jab jab, but the toothpick isn't going to put the scars in it like a metal will. So
Yeah.
care of your
You're saying
tips.
take when you say take the toothpick in and roll it, you're talking from the large end of the tip
Yes. Yeah, I'm
into.
talking from the barrel end of
Mhm.
the tip, the
Yeah.
larger end. So you just place it in there and you would pretty much do this with the toothpick. This is metal, but you would take the toothpick, roll it in there to get all of that out. And
Mhm.
then you can take the toothpick and just barely go through that little opening if you can, and you can clean them that way. But like I said, I just keep a couple of them on hand. You can see I've got like 3 of them set here ready to go in case there was a problem. And I can just swap them out. And I
Perfect.
think it
Mhm.
works the best for me doing that. All right, so back to this. Here we go. All right, so we're going to take that one and set it over here. And we're going to bring this one in because what? It is time to flip. Let's play the flip game, Amelia. Ta-da!
Look at
And down it goes.
that.
All
Yeah,
right, so
it
there we
worked.
go. It stands. And so then I would come in here. Make sure that tip is open. And I'm going to place a little dot, just a tiny enough little dot, onto those. Have you ever done this and using the pearl dragées in between spacers?
I haven't. I
I
have. I've seen
love
it
it.
done. I like
I
the look of it. It's very
yeah.
clean.
I've got some that I was going to show how that would be done because I actually like the look of that. Although I'm not quite sure, but I once was told that that is not a proper Oriental, and I was okay with that.
I can
But
see that there are those that do traditional and are very set in the traditional ways. So I can
right,
see that being,
yeah,
so
and
if you're going to
I
be
don't
doing it for a competition, maybe you might not want to try doing the dragée.
exactly. Yeah, I did one that way for a competition, and I actually got high marks on it. So I was happy that they saw, that we can step outside of the box every now and then and add a
Mhm.
little of our own personal flair to things. So I was grateful for that.
Oh,
But
good.
I do like the look of that. So I've added just little bitty dots again, and then I'm going to come back and guess what we're going to do again, folks? We're going to pipe. All right, so I've got that for you. I'm coming over on an angle and I'm going to go out and walk it over. And it's stuck to my cake. And by doing that, I know that I don't have enough of a lift into here. So I'm going to take that off, walk it off.
And you can see where it's stuck right
Yep, you
there.
can see where it's stuck right there. And so if that happens, it's either your little added dots are not far enough out or your space is too far, because
Mhm.
it's right in the middle of where that is at. All
Yeah.
right, so let's try that again. And if I make these, then I have to let them dry just a little bit, otherwise it just sags.
Yeah. Can we ask a couple questions while you're letting
Oh,
that dry
yes,
a
of
little bit?
course. Yep.
Okay. Someone's asking, how should a cake be stored after it's decorated to avoid having to try and repair it?
Oh, inside a box. Just set it in its packing box. And I don't like to set a cake into a box. I take my box, let's say it's a 12-inch cake, and I'm putting it into a 12-inch box that's going to have high enough. And I don't usually use regular cake boxes. I use Cordonary, the boxes, the heavy duty boxes, and I make sure that the height is more than enough. And then I slice down the side and I fold it open and I slide my cake in and I raise the side up and I tape it shut. And then the top of it I just tape off. If you can fold it down and then just tape it closed, as long as you know your height is better than what your work is, and it'll transport perfectly for you. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Yep.
Some
Excellent.
say someone says some say not to refrigerate fondant. And I guess the same question should be asked, should you not refrigerate fondant or should you not refrigerate royal icing?
Well, royal icing is going to pick up moisture. And so even once it's dry, so I would not myself put royal icing into the refrigerator. So and fondant, the reason they say not to put fondant into the refrigerator is because it too picks up moisture and then it can have that a sticky effect to it. But I personally have never had a problem with putting fondant into a refrigerator. I
I
don't
think it
know.
depends on the area where you live and
I believe
the
so.
climate and humidity levels. I
Yes.
think that's, and also your refrigerator. You know, some refrigerators have the ability to change their moisture levels.
Yes.
And if you have a fridge that you can control the moisture levels in it, then you should be fine. Even if you're in a very high humidity area.
Correct.
So I refrigerate my fondant all the time. I
And not
always
have any problems.
I never have problems. And you know, it all has to do with the fact that, well, I live in a very dry place, first of all. And second of all, you know, if you have a refrigerator that, you know, allows for that, then it's
Then you're good to go. Yeah.
okay.
All
Yeah.
right, so I'm moving this slowly because they're swinging so that I could get around to the other side. I realized that I was piping in, but you know, once you've seen me pipe, you've seen it. I'm doing the same technique. I'm just squeezing, pulling out, and then walking it over. And as I walk it over onto these, I'm slowing down a little bit to get that so that it's not swinging and actually hitting the cake. I'm going to raise that one just a little. There we go. All right. So I'm thinking the other one should be dry enough to be able to manipulate, but I'm going to come down here and do the bottom ones too. Should we do a double inside on the bottom inside here?
If you would well, we are running out of time. I don't
Oh,
know
well,
if
let's not
that
do that. All right. So you would do the same thing down here. There we go. There we go. Oops,
I'm sure
sorry.
there are plenty of us here that would sit and watch you for hours, but
We can't do that. We've got things to do and to move on. But you've got the basics to all of Oriental, and it's just a matter of moving it back and forth, back and forth. And so, what is our time, hon?
well, we are actually past the 12 or
Oh,
the the mark, but we started late, so
we
we
did.
have a
I had
couple
I had
minutes
audio
left.
problems. Okay,
We
so
do have a
let's
couple
catch as
minutes.
many of those questions as we can. If
All right, that sounds great. This is kind of a general question. When and where is ICES? Um, I can answer that one. It is July 30th through the 3rd of August. So it's coming up in about
and
2 weeks now.
it's Albuquerque, New Mexico
Yes,
this year.
Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's right. Okay. Let's see. Someone says stop that shaking. Back from when you were shaking
Oh,
that.
wait, you want me to see me do it again?
uh, someone's asking where can I buy the little tiny tips?
Oh, you can get them online. Um, if you go to ISIS this year, you can buy them right there at a couple of the vendors.
Absolutely.
You can go to quite a few sites. I know that Cake Connection, cakeconnection.com, carries them on their webpage. So, if you just Google PME, you're going to get it. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, there's plenty of places to find these tips, but
Yeah.
most of the time you will have to order them online. There are some shops around. I know that, in Las Vegas, I was so spoiled, and I could just run down to the shop and buy my tips and
Right.
anything else, and now I have to order everything online.
Yeah,
Everything.
which is a shame because my goal is to make sure that we're all supporting our local cake shops so that we all keep them in business, but then you wind up in an area where you can't. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, the majority of your cake shops will carry PMEs along
Hmm.
with the Wilton because Wilton has a really great a tip until you get into the fine decorating, and then you just need to move up a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah, we're talking exclusive cake shops, not your craft stores,
No, not your
and
craft
not
stores.
Hallmark. They're
Yeah,
not going to carry something like that. So
no.
your actual true, just plain
Cake
cake shops.
supplies stores, yes.
Yeah. Let's see. I know that you addressed this at the beginning, but can this technique be done on a buttercream cake?
I have never done it on a buttercream cake. I don't know anybody who has done it on a buttercream cake, and that's because the way you have to flip it, the boards that would be supporting your cake would be sticking to your buttercream, and so it's not something that I would advise. Have
Yeah,
you ever done it
I don't
on a
know about
buttercream?
buttercream. I never have. There is the royal icing. If you wanted to do, if you don't want to use fondant, you can use royal icing. And it's the traditional way that they would do the string work was on a royal iced cake,
That's
and
very true.
yeah. So I mean, there are books out there and instructors out there that do teach the covering a cake with royal icing and doing the string work on that. So that is another option if you
Correct.
don't want to use the fondant. But I wouldn't recommend the buttercream.
Buttercream. Yeah, we'll
So
bypass that one.
yeah. All right. I guess this will be our last question since we are out of time. Someone says, where can we see more examples of your stringwork cakes?
Oh, I'll post one or two of them up on Facebook for you. I do teach string work. It's one of the classes that I travel and teach. I also teach doing string work hanging off of isomalt. So I have little isomalt molds that we use, and then we attach that to our cake. And then we attach the Oriental lace work to that, which totally blew that out of the water of, you can only
Oh, I
use
love
royal icing.
that.
I know it's fantastic, and it adds that extra bling behind it. And
Hmm.
so, yes, I believe in the old ways. Please don't get me wrong. I think to learn them is a necessity. You have to. We have to have the foundation to order to continue upwards. But we also have to have the freedom to change things as we see them for our own artistic designs.
I
Yeah.
agree completely.
Thank
Completely
you.
with you. Yeah. But there are those that are so traditional that they aren't willing to try new things, and that can be a problem. But there are also on the other end people that think that this is so old and nobody's going to do it anymore, and they just
Right.
skip it completely.
Which
I
is a
know some
shame.
people that are cake decorators for years and years and they've never piped. And it's just what that just
I
shocks me.
know it's, and the thing is too that uh, because for several years we've gotten into cover it with fondant, use a mold, slap it on there, and out the door you go. And so for a little bit there we were losing all of our piping skills, and new generations coming up and they're going piping. What's piping? But and it's one of the easiest ways to decorate, and one of the most inexpensive ways to decorate is by piping with either buttercream or royal icing. And so I'm hoping more people will start to use it as well.
Yes, I completely agree. And it's so pretty. It is
It
so pretty.
is. It's pretty pretty. I mean, how can you not love that? Well, oh, let me get this off of here because that'll show you a little bit of a difference too. I'll slide that down so that you can see how I'm going to take that. I'm going to pull the pins out, keeping my fingers way away from my work. All right, so you can see how if you were to have put a 10-inch cake board on, it would be too close to it, and I don't want to try to take my fingers in there. So I'm going to take the pins, I'm going to come in, I'm going to pick up that board, and I'm going to raise it away, which left all of my work intact going all the way around that cake.
That is
Okay.
beautiful. Oh, how fun.
So as simple as that, it is Oriental string work. Like I said, there are folks out there who are phenomenal at it. They are just flat out amazing. So if you want to look at for them for classes, please do. They are really great at what they do. But just get some royal icing and start playing.
Absolutely. Well, and if anybody's interested in taking classes from you, do you have a website? How do you keep people posted on where you're going to be teaching?
I generally am on Facebook, and then on School of Cakeology has a Facebook page as well, and so does CMSA, Peggy Tucker. So I have 3 Facebooks out there now because I'm trying to figure out how to get my personal and my business and all of that, but people just know me. So there's a calendar there, and so you can catch that. But I generally will post periodically where I'm going to be for the next 4 to 5 times as I'm traveling.
All
But you
right,
can find me
wonderful.
at convention.
There you go. Find Peggy at convention. Find her on Facebook and on her School of Cakeology. She's everywhere. She really is everywhere. So
Occasionally I get home too.
occasionally, yeah, we did catch you at home, didn't we?
We did, yes, you did. It was like that was fantastic. So it worked out really well. I am headed out on Thursday to travel again, and I'm going to Norman, Oklahoma, to Fancy Cakes store to run. I think it's 5 classes we're holding.
Wonderful. Anyone in Oklahoma, go check it out. That's
Yeah,
great.
there you go.
All
We're gonna have a
right. Well,
good
thank
time.
you so much, Peggy. You are so
No,
wonderful to
thank
have
you.
on here.
I
And
love keeping up with you and your family and your new adventures, and I wish you the very best. And I will see you, my friend, in convention.
yes, thank you so much.
Bye now.
Bye, everyone.